Oregon holds a painful history for the Hazara people, a land where thousands of proud families once thrived harmoniously amid lush valleys. Tragically, this land witnessed a harrowing chapter where thousands of its inhabitants were massacred. They were forced to endure the unthinkable as their proud men's severed heads turned into minarets, and their women and children were subjected to captivity and slavery. Today, the ominous spectre of Abdul Rahman cast a shadow over this land once more, as if determined to complete his unfinished work. Historical accounts reveal that out of over 5,000 households, only 170 families remain, and thousands of hectares of fertile valleys dwindled to a single small village, the last vestige of its native inhabitants. Sadly, it appears that efforts are underway to deal the final blow to the enduring suffering of this land's native children. Shashpar, situated at the heart of the Uruzgan Kars district, is the last bastion where the Hazara people, the indigenous inhabitants, still reside. However, recent events suggest that a campaign is underway to compel these nearly 200 families to abandon their homes and fertile lands. Particularly the area known as Joinau in Shashpar has borne witness to a series of tragic events, with 14 Hazara residents publicly murdered by unknown assailants in the last 27 months. This grim narrative extends further. The reign of terror in this region has silenced the voices of the people, leaving few willing to speak about the horrors that have unfolded. Fear shrouds their daily routines, with a pervasive uncertainty about returning home safely each night. As dusk descends, residents retreat to the shelter of their homes, venturing out after dark, becoming an act of great peril. The heaviest emotional toll has fallen upon women and children who bear the emotional scars of this ordeal.
My son had gone to a wedding. He came back around 12 p.m. I told him to park the car there. He parked it and covered it with tarpaulin. Our car was parked right here. Yes, our car was parked right here. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I saw flames rising from here. I could not get out of fear. I said to myself that there might be someone out there to kill me. Then the villagers came. With their help, we extinguished the car's fire. We went to fetch water from that pond. The pond is over there. There was a lot of wood here. The wood was burnt. The car was also burnt. Even the flames had burnt those trees. Their leaves had dried up. It has been almost 3 months that the trees have not yet turned green. Here was the window. The glass of this window broke because of the heat. This window was completely burnt, and the fire had gone into the room. Inside the room, there were carpets, pillows, and mattresses, which were completely burned. Yes, completely burned. Even this window broke because of the heat. I built this garage 5 years ago. When the Islamic Emirate came to power, they came and destroyed our car garage. We had to park over there because it didn't have a garage anymore.
Was this garage built completely?
This garage was completed. It had a gate. We moved its gate and dropped it there. Later, because there was no room for our car, I parked there, and the second night, the car was set on fire. The reason was that we did not have the force. Islamic Emirate accused that I have built it recently. I explained that I did not make it recently. I made it 5 years ago. They didn't accept. It must be destroyed, they ordered. I responded that if you want it to be destroyed, then destroy it, because you have the power. Then they did it. We collected the logs, and threw them over there on the roof, and I had to park my car where it sat on fire. Here was the wall, and here were the trees that had borne fruit. I also have the footage of these trees. There were around 20 apricot trees here. The trees were all fruited. These were cut off from the bottom.
Who cut them off?
The Islamic Emirate cut them off. They said that you have built this garden recently. I explained that this construction is not recent. We built it 6 or 7 years ago. These walls were all constructed in one day. It had a gate. They ruined all of this. This is what remains of those trees. The remains of those trees are numerous here. Those stumps you can see are what's left from the trees that used to bear fruit. The trees had grown, and I have their footage. Look, these were all bearing fruit. They were similar to those trees. I lost more than 5 million.
Has anyone conducted an investigation into these incidents?
No, I swear to God, no one has ever inquired into why these events occurred. No one has asked. Even on the same day when the goods from my store were stolen, I had just arrived from Kabul, and I immediately filed a complaint with the Islamic Emirate. Instead of investigating, they questioned me. Do you have any grievances with someone? I replied that I didn't have any issues with anyone. They then questioned, why were your goods stolen? I responded, you must know the reason. I questioned them that how can the Hazara people's merchants be stolen while we have our shops near our homes? But the Pashtuns are safe even when their shops are at the crossroads. They inquired, why is that? I responded, you claim to have strong intelligence. You should find out for yourselves. They assured me they were following up on the matter. From that day until now, no one has even come and asked why this happened. A customer wanted to buy a car from me for $6,500. On the very day the customer was supposed to come and buy the car, it was set on fire the night before. These incidents took place.
There were 4 cars that were set on fire. One from the top of the village, one from the middle, and one from the end. Another one was attempted, but the owner discovered it in time and extinguished the fire.
Following that, a series of events unfolded. Initially, they ignited the threshing floor, and subsequently, they proceeded to cut down the trees.
On that evening, we were at our home right here. I stepped out of the house and observed a fire engulfing the agricultural land, informing my children that I think our threshing floor has been set on fire. They urged me not to go, expressing concern for my safety and insisting that the threshing floor wasn't worth the risk. I countered by saying, no, I must go. How can I provide for my 13 family members without it? Whatever fate awaits me, so be it. I took the shovel. My sons followed me and informed the village residents with screams.
When the fire started, we called the village residents to find out how and where this fire started. They said that the threshing floors are on fire, and we are going to the threshing floors, but we're not sure. Later, we called again. They reported that the wheat was set on fire at the field.
We just had finished eating the dinner that they called from the houses in the lower part of the village, asking what the smoke and fire were for. I climbed on the roof of my house, saw that the fire was very blazing. I informed my nearby neighbors. We all went there empty-handed. We were not sure what was going on out there. When we arrived, I saw that the lumps of wheat were burning.
When I arrived and the villagers arrived, we extinguished the fire. We removed the more or less unburned ones from the fire. Most of the wheat was burnt, and very little remained unburnt. Of the over 1/2 ton of seeding wheat, which could yield more than 2 tons, I had very little left. Everything was destroyed, and my fruit trees were also burnt due to the wheat fire.
Trees and their leaves were burnt. They had collected the newly harvested wheat in a very planned manner and placed it under the trees, then set it on fire so that the trees would also burn and perish.
Some took the branches of the tree to put out the fire. Some brought water. As a result of panic, someone had mistakenly streamed the water to another piece of land than where the fire was. Some threw dirt on the fire, some tried with tree branches, and some brought water. Almost all the residents of Shashpar had come. About 40, 50 people had come, and we extinguished the fire.
The land belongs to someone else. I rent that land for farming. The officials of the emirate came to the scene and asked who set fire to these threshing floors. We said that it was night and don't know who did it, but you can see that it has been set on fire. Later, we found out that a little boy had seen two people and asked them, "Who are you?" They had ordered the boy in Pashto language, Ja Malari, to not raise his voice, and they also hit that boy with stones. He was scared and did not say anything to us at that time. He told us a few days later, and we wished that he would let us know at that time, that we might be able to follow the perpetrators.
The harvest of 6 households had been set on fire. We were able to save one of them and the other one, which had been set on fire, but had extinguished itself. We do not know if the wind had turned it off or what had happened, but it had not burned.
After the wheat harvests were set on fire, a few nights later, they cut around 250-300 of our fruit trees, among which 30 trees were mine.
The cut trees belonged to 15 households. They cut down, more or less, 20, 25, and 70 trees from each household.
The next day, we learned that the trees had been cut down. The cut trees were in different sizes, but all were bearing fruit. There was nothing left in the store except rocky salt. The shop was right here. Many people had witnessed that I had a shop right behind me. If we, the Hazara people, are not humiliated, not oppressed, how could a single needle not be stolen from an Afghan shop out there and doing his business with no security issue while ours had been stolen from inside our house?
We went to their district security, the governor, and reported it. We even went to the judges of the Islamic Emirate.
They came and questioned me. Who did I have fight and violence with? I responded that I had no issue with no one. The commander of the Islamic Emirate asked, "Why did your car set on fire then?" I reasoned that it was set on fire because of my oppression and powerlessness.
We filed a complaint so that they would serve justice for us, because there is so much oppression on us, and some people should be held accountable. But the Islamic Emirate says that we should find the suspect ourselves.
When I explained the stolen amount of goods from my shop, they asked me to bring my invoices. I did, and itemized the stolen material one by one. But they questioned me the same thing again. Who did you have fight and violence with? And who do you suspect? I explained that it was stolen overnight, and I did not have any fight, nor did I do violence with anyone, but my shop was robbed. How should I know?
We do complain, but no justice is served, no one is held accountable. Then what can one hope for? There is no accountability, not even an iota. There is zero such a thing that exists. On the contrary, if things happen, for example, they kill one of our community members, the Islamic Emirate arrest some of us instead, conspire and accuse us of enmity between ourselves. then torture us for forced admission.
We cannot point out our opponents directly because of fear. No one can do it. Maybe one knows his perpetrators, cannot mention it out of fear. If one does so, he will be killed the same night.
Finally, they asked me to wait. They said that they will try to find the culprit and let me know. Almost 2 years have passed, but the robbers have not been found yet.
What happened that day was that we were preparing for a wedding in the village. Everyone was busy. A car had already been set on fire. It was Mohammed Reza's car. I wanted to go and release water from the dam to the village. There was no one available to take with me, so I took Haji Nabi's son with me from the Sangpara village to the water dam. When we got there, we saw children playing in the water. They got out and left. Everything was quiet and peaceful and no one was around. We blocked one water channel and proceeded to close the other. Suddenly, 2 adults who were hiding behind a tree attacked me and hit me on the top of the head with a stone. The newly made hat that I was wearing was torn in 2 pieces and thrown away. I called my companion, "Oh, son, come out. I am about to die."
The current government has not brought peace to anyone. It's possible that they themselves are responsible for setting fire to our wheat fields, killing people, abducting girls, burning cars, and destroying walls. These incidents might all be due to the government. We are living in constant fear and discomfort. They also killed my cousin, and it is heartbreaking. We are enduring immense suffering, and his brothers and sisters are even worse off. This current government has not provided us with any peace or security. We panic when we see Afghans on the street. What if they come to our house? At night when we try to sleep, the fear of them harming my father and brothers keeps us awake. We carry a heavy burden of worry constantly.
At night, I sleep beneath the window, driven by the fear of being killed from the window's direction. I instruct my sons not to sleep directly in front of the window, due to the ominous fear of being harmed. If an individual were to approach with the intent to harm us through the window, there would be no inquiries into find and arrest. History has shown that such incidents have occurred before, resulting in fatalities without any subsequent legal recourse.
The truth of the matter is, I am hopeless of this existence. Without hope, life becomes unsustainable. When we go out to work, the uncertainty of returning safely looms over us. More often than not, individuals do not return alive. Consequently, I find myself confined within the walls of my home for extended periods, anxiously anticipating when potential threats might materialize, whether it be during the night or in the morning.
Over the past 2.5 years, the financial losses incurred by these communities are immeasurable and not easily recoverable. Life in Shashpar has become marked by anxiety and fear, with inhabitants constantly bracing themselves for distressing news. Some have already packed their belongings, anticipating the inevitable flee from their beloved village, believing that they might have to escape from the remaining coveted Hazara land, as neighbors cast covetous glances upon it.
We are so afraid of this situation that we might leave here.
Several families have moved out, and about 10 to 12 households are selling their belongings to leave in the near future.
He was performing ablution to pray. 2 people ambushed him and killed him with a gun. His children were forced to leave their house, which was located in a secluded place, and take refuge inside the village. The situation has become so dire that people are slowly preparing for a mass exodus.
If families continue to be compelled to vacate their residences, it will eventually lead to the entire community relocating from this area. For confirmation, you can inquire with Haji Sultan's sons. They have liquidated all their household possessions and are prepared for departure. For instance, in the event that I am no longer present in this valley, it would not be feasible for my kids to remain here.
My nephew was killed, no one held accountable. His very young kids had to move away, leave their land and house behind, and become miserably displaced. He had done nothing wrong. He was not a government official, not a Taliban member. He was not a Khan or a Malik. He was an ordinary person and an all-day worker. Now people are begging those who are migrating to stay, because if they leave, we will all have to migrate from here.
I also want to depart from this place because the present circumstances make it impractical to continue residing here.
As you can observe, our living conditions are quite dire. We possess only 2 sacks of flour, and we are relying on divine providence for sustenance. Additionally, we have received a donation of chickpeas from a charitable organization. My nephew, a skilled and robust young man, worked as a motorcycle mechanic. Tragically, while he was engrossed in repairing a motorcycle at his workshop, 2 masked individuals on a motorcycle, armed with weapons, fired 5 shots and swiftly fled the scene. This senseless act of violence martyred him within his own repair shop.
A few years ago, when the people of Bagchar were compelled to undergo a mass exodus, their plight went unnoticed. People from Chero and Oti were also forced to migrate, without anyone taking notice, as we belong to a minority group. It is evident that the vehicles of the Pashtuns are left unharmed in front of their homes. We have never witnessed theft of their cars, destruction of their trees, or sabotage of their crops. On the contrary, despite our people's lack of involvement in government matters and any wrongdoing, our properties are subjected to arson. This injustice occurs simply because we are part of the minority and bear the weight of oppression. We are not even permitted to collect soil from the vicinity of our houses to thatch our roofs or create water troughs for our animals. All Shiites residing in the Sheshpar region face restrictions on construction, while Pashtuns have the freedom to transport stones and soil from around our homes without any impediment.
The repercussions of the Shashpar and Joinau incidents extend beyond the village itself. Residents from nearby Hazara areas, such as Sonjak Hosseini, recount the adverse effects of these events.
People are afraid that if this process continues, the problems that the people of Shashpar are currently facing will also affect us. The people of Shashpar are no different from us. They are our people and we live in the same district. So when our people do not have security in Shashpar, their livers and property are in danger, and if such a danger is not prevented, it may happen the same thing in our area. During the Bagchar incident that happened a few years ago, 600 to 700 houses were forced to exodus, but now it is likely that the same thing will happen in Shashpar region and even in our region. This possibility remains viable. If similar events occur in Shashpar and the same pattern persists within our region, comprising ongoing pressure, assaults, torture, theft, tree deforestation, motorcycle theft, and so forth, individuals may be compelled to relocate to areas where their safety, wealth, and dignity are assured. When people lack a sense of security, migration becomes a necessity.
Sadly, forced migration and displacement are not unfamiliar in Uruzgan. In 2009, in Bagcha, not far from the Uruzgan Kars district center, and while American and ISAF forces were stationed there, the native Hazara population was compelled to abandon their homes by neighboring Pashtuns. The accounts of the Bagcha refugees who fled in 2009 paint a heart-wrenching picture of their forced migration.
Somehow, the Americans located the Taliban and carried out a night raid. During this raid, several of Juma Khan's brothers were killed, and 2 others were killed in the village of Kotajoy in the Bagchar area. The Pashtun elders in Daichopan had decided to seek revenge for their people who were killed by Americans from the Hazara people of Bagchar. In their first act of retaliation, they blocked the path of 4 teenage boys who were innocently riding their motorcycles on their way back from a berry-picking picnic in Karlgo village and beheaded them. Following that, as several others were on their way to the Uruzgan district in 2 passenger cars to elect the village head, the Pashtuns blocked their path, forced 5 of them out of the car, and beheaded them as well. In total, 9 people were beheaded. After these brutal killings, we made a resolute decision to resist such brutality as much as possible and not abandon our area. We resisted for 9 months. We had come to the conclusion that our enemies had their eyes on our fertile lands. It's worth mentioning that the Bagchar region was known as the Grain Hive, as it supplied wheat to the 2 districts of Uruzgan and Daichopan. Therefore, the goal of our enemies was to force us to flee from there. During the 9 months of resistance, we received no assistance from any quarter. We had to...
I swear to God that during those times, our women and children couldn't even gather around the table for a single night to eat together. Night and day, we lived in constant fear of their attacks on us. We were trembling.
Yes, we were afraid every moment, not knowing whom they would kill next, where they would strike, or whose land and house they would plunder. We lived in constant fear. In the end, we realized that winter was approaching, and with its arrival, the cold weather would leave us without any assistance. Our migration route would become impassable, and all our belongings would be looted right here. It became imperative for us to migrate.
In 2009, we collectively decided that we should take the security of the pass by ourselves, ensuring a smooth and trouble-free relocation. However, contrary to expectations, the Taliban forces did not disturb us during the migration.
Finally, we had to go on a mass exodus. At that time, the people of Bagchar had acquired some weapons, and we militarized the people of the region. The young adults had taken the security of the entire route, so that all the people would migrate from Bagchar safely. That is how we migrated to the vicinity of Uruzgan district.
At the time of mass migration, there were 277 families.
When I left my house as we ascended towards the pass, I couldn't help but think that the cemeteries, the houses, and our entire lives were all left behind. It's disheartening to realize that in our old age, such an unfavorable living has been imposed upon us.
We were in the center of Uruzgan for some time. Some people stayed there, and they are still there. Haji Boston, who was martyred a few days ago, was from Bagchar. The poor man had no sin. Haji Boston's 2 sons were among the martyrs who were beheaded.
After that, I was only able to go there once, by the mediation of a powerful Taliban person, whose commanders were with us.
What is evident is that the relentless cycle of forced migrations from Uruzgan shows no sign of ending. If this situation persists, it won't be long before all the Hazaras of Uruzgan are forced to flee the region, becoming displaced. It's a grim reality that Uruzgan could soon vanish from the Hazara existence.